Hi, Dana here, and I'm going to address this great question. Should I cut carbs to manage midlife weight gain? So, seems like an easy or a simple question, I should say, but is it really? Let's unpack this question and address all of what's in there. It's something that comes up all the time. Everybody wants to know, should I cut carbs to manage midlife weight gain? I've actually written a lot of this down, so I might even refer to my notes a bit and share that with you for those of you that want it in written form or want to refer to it. But I know that video is a lot easier for us to consume when we're on the go and stuff, so I'm gonna leave it here in video form for you too. So should. First of all, let's unpack the whole thing. Should I cut carbs to manage my midlife weight gain? Should implies that maybe you should feel the need to reduce your size and take up less space, which I don't necessarily agree with. And it also implies that you want to look smooth under your clothing instead of having a roll, or that you want to have a smaller waist or a lower weight. Now, I think that you should embrace your curves and love your body the way that it is. But we also have to look at what kind of weight gain it is that we are, accumulating or experiencing at this time. And it's usually the stuff that might be around the back, in the back of the bra area, or it might be right in the front and around the middle. So it might be those love handles and visceral fat in the belly area. And actually that stuff is correlated with bad health outcomes, and it is associated with metabolic problems and with coronary arterial disease and other types of cardiometabolic issues. And visceral fat is definitely implicated in all of these bad health outcomes like diabetes and all this type of stuff. So yeah, we do want to address it. Yes. So yes. Should I? So the next one is and I really draws attention to the fact that it is a personal question. Like, is this right for me? And so I do have some notes with reference to this. So there's no standard answer that applies to all people when it comes to ways to manage our bodies with food. One thing I've learned with 10 years as a nutritionist is we're all very biochemically individual. We need different amounts and timing and everything when it comes to food. So we do know that what works in men doesn't always work in women. We've learned that. Especially midlife women. So for example, we do need to take more care with fasting. Fasting might be a great thing to try for men or for women that are not yet in midlife. Fasting for midlife women does need to be done carefully. Intermittent fasting can be a great tool to manage our midlife weight gain, but we do need to take our hormones and a lot of things into consideration. So even mimicking a fast, like you might with the ketogenic diet, or even just a very low carb diet, like low carb paleo, can trigger our bodies into thinking that we're starving. So we do need to avoid that because that causes all kinds of unwanted things. So we also don't want to overtrain because that can also get us into that same state. So we do have to take care that we're not trying to over exercise or starve our weight away. That wouldn't work for us. Now, women of a certain age do tend to have some things in common. So in addressing that, I think that there are a lot of things that we can lump together in terms of things that we do tend to experience together. So I can address these, and just remember though that you are unique, and what works for everybody might not work. Everybody else might not work for you. So the next word in that phrase that we are deconstructing here is cut. So should I cut carbs to manage midlife weight gain? Cut implies, cutting out, taking out, and leaving out. And I think that it's really problematic to remove things from our diet for a lot of us, either because we have this rebel archetype in us, like I do. Like if you tell me like I can't do something, then I might just do it just because you said I shouldn't. So for people, like if you relate with that, then cutting out the carbs might not work for you long term. The other situation that makes cutting not so great is that we're not focusing on what we are supposed to eat, which is going to work for us a lot better long term. So I'm going to frame this in terms of what we should be eating, more so than what we should be taking out. Yeah, because that can be very triggering for us. So instead, what are we going to add in? We're going to add in enough protein to fuel us, keep us full, keep our muscle on our bodies, which is really going to keep our metabolic rate up and keep like the thermic effect of food, and especially of protein, is very good at making us fat burning and just fuel burning machines. So we're going to eat enough of that. We're going to eat enough fat. Healthy fats are either they're just under-eaten by a lot of us, and they're one thing that most of us need to add back in, or in some cases we're just eating the wrong kinds of fats. We're not really sure what healthy fats are. So getting enough omega fats and other types of healthy fats is really a good thing for your diet. So protein, fat, and then fiber. So you do want to keep in a lot of fiber. Fiber is going to be really integral for a lot of reasons. And if you're ever craving something sweet and sugary, I do suggest that you reach for some protein, some fiber, and some fat first. Like reach for high protein item or high fat item, high fiber item, or even better, one that does all three. And if you're still hungry for that sweet or sugary thing, then if you still want it, by all means, go for it. You might need the fuel for, that might be what you need. So we do want to also add in activity. That's one reason why you might need that extra fuel. Maybe you're adding in activity, but it's the right kind of activity. You want to stay active for sure, but you don't want to overtrain with long cardio sessions, and sort of this really endurance kind of stuff is only gonna work in certain cases. Mostly you want to do quick bursts of stuff. You want to do HIIT training, Tabata training. You want to do 15 to 20 minutes of really something intense. You want to do weightlifting with heavy weights like plyometrics, and actually powerlifting are both really good to keep the muscle on and to keep you strong and energized, really keep your metabolism up. So doing that is something that you could add in as well. So now we're breaking down, should I cut carbs to manage my midlife weight gain? So the next one is carbs. Let's unpack carbs. I think that a lot of people get confused about what carbs really are. People tell me they're cutting carbs when actually they're eating tons of carbs. I think that that's because we associate carbs, like when we think carbs, we think sugar, flour, potatoes, pastries, baked goods, stuff like that, maybe rice. And for sure, those are all carbs. But we don't want to just say, should I cut carbs, and say yes to that, because carbs it's like all the plants. We don't want to cut all the plants. We definitely do not want to cut all the plants. We want to keep plants in our diet and make them the majority of our diet. So it's leafy greens, phytochemical rich plants, high fiber plant foods. These should be the majority of your plate and the majority of your diet. So should you cut carbs? Yes, you should cut out sugar. Go ahead, cut sugar out, and that's very helpful. But just be mindful what you mean when you say carbs, because you do need all those plants for all those phytochemicals for your health and for your microbiome, which is integral to our long-term health. I mean, that's 70% or so of our immune system right there. It's producing a lot of our serotonin. Very important that we maintain our microbiome. And what do those bugs eat? They eat fiber. So that's what we need to eat. So if we break it down a little bit further, the next part is to manage. So if we use the words to manage, we're really talking about like a long-term solution. So long-term, should you cut out all your carbs or cut them way down? The whole low carb, high fat and keto thing is really, really tempting to lose weight. And a lot of people do lose weight when they first go on it. Short term, everybody's going to lose probably about 10 pounds when they go on a really low carb, super carb restricted diet. And so if you want to lose 10 pounds because you have done something amazing and somebody wants to interview you on TV, and you know that TV is going to make you look fat, I mean, go for it. Like, go cut all the carbs, lose the 10 pounds, and feel great for that TV interview if that's what you want to do. But if you want a long-term solution, then you're either going to have to do a very specific version of low carb that's like extremely vegetable dense and vegetable forward, like vegetables first kind of way of eating, which is not just any old keto or low carb diet is not going to do that for you. You really need to find that kind of green keto or clean keto, like very friendly way of eating, which is going to suit you through midlife. Or you just want to go for a balanced diet, and that's really that's going to be something that you can try, because you don't know if your body is best eating a higher fat diet, or if it's best eating a higher protein diet, or what it's best eating. And without knowing that, a balanced diet is the safest way to go if you're not sure. Now, you can do that and eat a lot of carbs. It's just what kind of carbs you're going to eat. So starchy carbs, the more you burn them, the more you can eat them. So it's really, most of the time you can have a certain amount of carbohydrates that are starchy. Some people maybe need to eat almost no starchy carbs because they're very sedentary and their body just packs on the weight when they eat carbs, or they just have all the hot flash and all those other symptoms when they eat carbs. If that's the case, I'm going to give you a sort of a structure at the end for figuring out how many of these you can tolerate and how many you can actually consume without having any of these negative symptoms. So the final part of this phrase is midlife weight. So let's unpack that. And yeah, we can blame it on, it is midlife weight. Like, I think that's a fair thing to call it. It's weight that just we have been doing everything the same, and suddenly there it is. We haven't changed anything. We're still active. I mean, I know a bunch of these ladies, like, you're going everywhere on your bicycles. It's not like you're suddenly inactive. In fact, most of us think so much. I'm sure we burn a ton of calories with how much we overthink everything. Think about stuff. So what's happening? It's really to do with our hormones and everything shifting. So insulin often goes out of range during this time. Our blood sugar management really suffers around this time when we're shifting, when we're perimenopausal and into postmenopausal years. We have to really watch our insulin and our blood sugar. Like, we have to pay attention. So it is possible that whatever weight gain you're having is definitely attributable to midlife. Plus, we tend to retain water and have like a harder time adjusting our water and minerals and everything in our body. Like, we just tend to have a harder time. So that can make us also like just have a bit of bloat on top of actual new fat that we might be accumulating. And women have this extra time in our lives more than men do, where we actually build new fat cells. So yeah, it's actually a thing. We do have more opportunity to become, a little bit higher proportion of fat at this time. So what's your strategy? If my video dies, I'll put this into a different video, but basically just go one day at a time. That is the most important thing. That is the way to do it with everything, right? I'm sure we have all figured that out, one day at a time. And then the next step is like dedicate like 1 hour a week to learning new things and trying to implement them. So if it's 1 hour a week, Sunday afternoon, right before you kind of do your weekly planning or, financial management or whatever you do, you can also use that time to research new recipes that you want to try, or foods that you want to try, or something to make your room darker at night, whatever it is. That spend 1 hour a week. Don't get overwhelmed with it or whatever. Just set some time aside. And this is important, right? You're going to go through midlife changes for some people go through perimenopause for like more than a decade. So set aside some time to make sure that you're learning about it. So wake up. First of all, sleep well. Your sleep is really, really important to your weight. So make sure you sleep well. And there's a lot of tips on, sleep hygiene out there. If you don't know anything about that, I have some posts about that on my blog, but I'm sure you can find tips out there, like anywhere, like on Healthline or wherever. So once you've slept well, you wake up, drink a glass of water. Then if you're going to exercise, this is a great time to do your exercise. But regardless of whether you exercise or not, next thing that you're going to do is you're going to have a high protein breakfast. So either exercise and have a high protein breakfast, or just go ahead, wake up, have the glass of water, wait a little while, and then have your high protein breakfast. You start the day with a balanced breakfast, lots of protein. It should have a little bit of fat, fiber, and protein at every meal. And make sure that you have 3 meals a day, unless you really know what you're doing with intermittent fasting. Have 3 meals a day, and try not to snack at all. Don't snack in between meals. So you start with this high protein breakfast. You make sure that you get enough fiber at your lunch. So get at least 20 grams or more of protein at breakfast, 20 to 25 grams at breakfast. Make sure that you get 15 grams or more of fiber at lunch. This will keep your blood sugar steady, keep you full, and help you to get through the day without being too much fiber late in the day, which doesn't really help sleep. And we all know that we're kind of struggling with good sleep these days. And then, if you do crave a sweet treat, like I said, eat some protein, carbs, and fat first. That will really help. And never eat anything that has more than 10 grams of sugar in a serving. If you have a packaged item that lists what's in it, if it has more than 10 grams of sugar per serving, you never buy that ever again, ever. And you never eat it either. You don't need to do that to yourself. That's too much to make your body have to balance and recover from. And sugary drinks are the worst. So, the ones at Starbucks, we know that they have, some of them are worth 30 cookies, the amount of sugar that's in them. Don't do it. Don't drink your sugar. So just don't drink your sugar. Even the green smoothies there, some of them have 42 grams of sugar. So read the labels, watch out. Speaking of green smoothie is a great way to start the day. So a lot of greens, I really like herbs or arugula. I tend to avoid spinach because there's a lot of oxalates in that, but a lot of greens like baby kale, whatever you want there. Water, some healthy oils. I use a vegan omega oil, some protein. I use usually the Vega proteins and greens, or I use some whey powder. And then any add-ins that you want to have that are really good. If you want to add collagen, keep you looking young. If you want to add some glutamine for gut health, now's the time to put your add-ins in there. And then maybe some low sugar fruit, like some berries, something like that can be really great. And this is a great way to start your day. So hopefully that helps you. This strategy is fairly simple, I think, and that's not too much information. I'll put it in written form for those of you who do better with it that way, and I hope that is a good start. Thanks. Oh, one more thing. So if people do want to reduce their carbs, how do you do that? So I better share the technique of how you do that. It's gradually. So believe it or not, you want to add, you can take all the carbs out, and you can do that for say a week. That'll give you a reset. You'll probably lose those 10 pounds and feel really nice. And your pants won't be as tight, because nobody wants that tight and crotch thing that makes your crotch all numb. So get rid of the tight pants by dropping a few pounds just by cutting the carbs for a week. And then you're going to mindfully take note of how much you're eating. You're going to add it back in a little bit at a time. So you're going to take about a tablespoonful or a serving, and you're just going to go 1 tablespoon by 1 tablespoon, or 1 serving by 1 serving, a serving of carbs, starchy carbs, or these are the leafy green kind, right? That's about the size of your hand. So in case you need to know the servings, the tip of your thumb is a serving of fat, and protein is the palm of your hand, like that. So you take your servings of leafy greens. You can have quite a big serving, but starchy carbs, it's just going to be the size of your fist. And you're going to count how many you can tolerate by just increasing them a little by little. So either 1 extra serving a day, or an extra tablespoon at every meal. An amount that you think that you'd like to start with. Start smaller than you think and work your way up. We're all going to have a different tolerance for starch. That's going to be dependent on our salivary amylase, which is very much a genetic thing, how much we have of that, how much we can tolerate. And so each of us will have a different tolerance for carbs. Some of us are sugar sensitive. We crave them because it stimulates the release of beta endorphins when we get sugar. And so it makes us feel really good and really smart and capable and stuff. So careful. Add a little bit at a time, and when you start to get anything, hot flashes or cravings for food, you get the mid-afternoon munchies or the late night munchies, or that feeling when you're done eating that you're really not done eating and you still need something, but it has to be something sweet. or an afternoon fatigue, if any of that happens to you, then you've reached your limit for carbs and you should note how much you ate the day before, and that is the amount that you should continue eating. You shouldn't increase any further. So hopefully that really helps you to nail how many carbohydrates you should eat and clears up the idea of whether or not you should cut carbs to manage midlife weight gain.